Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In the world of One Piece, pirates are often seen as a major threat worldwide. Some are in fact cruel people who seek only to satisfy their own interests and goals, and really don't care about the obstacles that are in their way of achieving their dreams. We've even seen some pirate crews that have taken the lives of innocent people and enslaved nations. But to prevent this from happening, the Navy was created, an organization of very powerful sailors who fight for justice and stability in the world. So in today's video, we're going to talk about all the various Marines that have been shown and talked about throughout our story of One Piece. We'll also talk about their powers and their combat style. Now remember that not all Marines have been detailed, nor do we know about all their skills. So we're only going to talk about those that have presented so far. But before we dive into this Marine roll call, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like and even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and also motivates us to keep building content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into these Marines that we've seen all throughout our story of One Piece. Starting off at the top of the list, we're going to talk about Sakazuki, who is also known by his nickname Akainu. Now he's currently the Fleet Admiral of the Navy, who succeeded the previous Fleet Admiral Sengoku after the events of the Battle of the Best in Marineford. Sakazuki ate the Magu no Mi, a Logia-type fruit that allows him to manipulate the magma element any way he wishes. Through his power, Akainu can shape magma and lava into several different shapes and sizes, as well as turn his whole body into the substance, making him pretty well immune to physical attacks, as well as using magma at a long range and throwing projectiles to hit his enemies. Next we have BORSALINO, better known by his nickname Kizaru, and he's an admiral in the Navy, and Kizaru possesses the power of the Pika Pika no Mi. Through this Logia-type fruit, he is able to turn his body into light, which gives him intangibility to physical attacks and shots and swords and strikes just like any other Logia. But this fruit also makes it possible for Kizaru to use light beam attacks like lasers anywhere on his body, and it also gives him the ability to move at the speed of light when using this technique after he creates a trail and moves through it. Next we have Isho, better known by his nickname of Fujitora. Now he's an admiral in the Navy who ate the fruit the Zushi no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows him to manipulate gravity around a chosen location, sending gravitational waves and forces. Fujitora is able to move living things and various objects with little effort, ranging from small rocks to a huge Navy ship, and the range of his gravitational field is incredibly huge, and he can even attract meteors from outer space. We move on to Aramaki, better known by his nickname, Ryokugyu. He's another admiral in the Navy, and Aramaki ate the fruit the Morimori no Mi, a Logia-type fruit that allows him to generate various plants from his body and control the plants freely. The plants that Ryokugyu creates grow quickly and move freely, and through these plants, Aramaki can also absorb nutrients from the bodies of other living things, allowing him never the need to feed himself through his mouth, but rather through his roots. Moving on, we're next going to talk about Sengoku, who was the former Fleet Admiral of the Navy before the time skip. Now, at some point during the past, he became Inspector General of the Navy, and Sengoku has eaten the Hito no Mi model Buddha fruit, a Zoan-type devil fruit that allows him to transform into a giant golden Buddha. With his complete transformation through the fruit, Sengoku gets a huge increase in size and physical strength, as well as the golden aura that he emits as a Buddha. And Sengoku is able to unleash powerful physical attacks on his enemies and seems to have an incredible level of durability. Our hero of the Navy, Monkey D. GARP. Now, although he's a vice admiral in the Navy, after the Battle of Marineford, he decided to become a Navy instructor to train new recruits, while still holding the rank of vice admiral. Now, GARP doesn't possess any devil fruit powers, and only relies on his physical abilities and his haki. But through this incredible boot strength, he is still extremely powerful, where he was always able to fight the former Pirate King Gold D. Roger to a stalemate each time they clashed. The next Marine we'll talk about is Suru. She's also a vice admiral of the Navy like GARP, and considered to be one of the strongest women in the organization. Even in present day, she is feared because of her fame that has traveled across the vast sea. Suru's main strength is her strategic intelligence, enabling her to find ways to defeat her opponents with great ease, especially during large battles that require a lot of reasoning. This vice admiral possesses the Woshi no Mi fruit, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows her to literally wash and hang dry people and objects as if they were clothes, causing the user to become a human laundry. Next we come to John Giant, who is a very loyal Vice Admiral of the Navy as well, and he's an officer at the headquarters. He's the first giant to ever be revealed in the series serving in the Navy. Being a giant, John possesses superhuman strength and endurance and is a skilled swordsman with a katana that perfectly fits his huge size. Our next Vice Admiral is Kamal. Now, he's a commander of the naval base G2, but we don't know much about his abilities. During the Battle of Marineford, he carried 2 katanas, therefore it's assumed that he is a very experienced swordsman in fighting a 2-sword style. We also know that as a Vice Admiral, he must possess Haki because we know that that is a requirement of all upper-level Navy officers. Next on our list is Momonga. He's also a Vice Admiral and commander of the G1 base. He is also one of the 5 Vice Admirals who led the Buster Call against Ohara. Momonga is a highly proficient and powerful swordsman, as well as possessing control in Ryoshiki techniques and having a great control over Haki. Another one of the Vice Admirals that was present during the Buster Call on Ohara is Onigumo. Now, he is a Vice Admiral as well who possesses a devil fruit with a name that hasn't been revealed yet. But through this fruit, it seems he's able to grow 3 pairs of spider-shaped black arms from his hair. Because of these additional limbs, it seems he's able to wield a total of 8 sabers in a manner very similar to Hachan's 6 sword style and Hyozu's 8 sword style, and he also possesses the ability to use Haki during combat. The third Vice Admiral, who was also present at the Buster Call, is Doberman. During this events in Marineford, we saw that he was wielding a sword in his hand, which means he must be a very skilled swordsman, as well as possessing Haki because all Vice Admirals are expected to. The fourth Vice Admiral that led the Buster Call was Strawberry. In Marineford, he is seen wielding twin Japanese swords in a reverse grip style, quite a distinctive kind of hold for a swordsman. So this might mean that his character has a unique fighting style, or could be extremely skilled in the art of swordsmanship. And like every other Vice Admiral, he must also possess Haki. The last of our 5 Vice Admirals who administered the Buster Call command was Yamakaji. We know virtually nothing about this character, and it's never even been shown whether he uses a sword or some other kind of fighting style. But since he holds a considerably high rank within the Navy, it must mean that he at least can use Haki and has some other skills to warrant him that title. The next group that we'll mention is a group called the Giant Squad, and that's the name of a group of giants selected to protect the execution platform that would have been used for the execution of Porcas D. Ace. And they consist of at least 8 giant Marine officers. LaCroix and Lons are Vice Admirals. The ranks and names of the other members were still unknown. However, given that all members wear the standard Navy jacket over the shoulders, they must have at least the rank of captain. The next officer we'll talk about is called Dalmatian. Now, they are a Vice Admiral within the Navy as well, and has eaten a devil fruit that we don't know the name of yet, but we do know it seems to be a Zoan type that allows him to transform into a Dalmatian animal. Through this fruit, his basic physical attacks such as strength, speed, and endurance are enhanced, just like any other Zoan user, and also allows him to get a great advantage during combat. Along with this fruit, Dalmatian can combine his Ryoshiki style, further enhancing his combat while in either hybrid or full animal form. Moving on, we'll talk quickly about Stainless. He's another Vice Admiral in the Navy, and during his appearances, he's seen carrying a katana like most other Vice Admirals. Now, his level of fencing and mastery is not known, but because he holds a higher rank, we do expect that he is quite skilled and has the ability to use Haki just like our other Vice Admirals and Admirals. The first of which is Mozambia, a Vice Admiral of the Marines, and although we don't know much, we do see they carry a sword and likely have the same ability to use Haki like other Vice Admirals. Second, we'll talk about Cancer. Now, they're a Vice Admiral and were seen briefly during the Battle of Marineford wielding a sword, which must mean that they're at least a certain level of a swordsman, as well as the use of Haki just like other Vice Admirals. And third, we'll talk about Bastille. We've seen them carrying a katana that seems to have a bit of a greater curve than other katanas, and we also saw his ability to use armament as well as observation Haki. Next, we're going to talk about Navy Officer Smoker from the G5 base. Now, at some point during the time skip, he was promoted to the rank of Vice Admiral and is among some of the more powerful in the organization. Smoker ate the Mokumoku no Mi, a Logia type fruit that allows him to create, transform into, and manipulate the density of smoke. Smoker also possesses a weapon that is like a Jite and is called a Nanashak Jite, which allows him to neutralize the power of users who possess a devil fruit because it is made out of sea prism stone. We've also seen that Smoker has the ability to use Haki, and like I said earlier, many have wondered when we're going to get to see one of our favorite admirals from early in the story again as we head towards this final saga. Going back to a few of our lesser known Vice Admirals, we have Maynard, who has a blade around his left leg that is covered by a sheath. Now, like all Vice Admirals, he does possess the ability to use Haki, but we still haven't seen much of him in this series. Next, we have Jian, who is better known by her nickname of Momosagi. She's a Vice Admiral in the Navy and possesses an incredible mastery of swordplay and fencing, making her a candidate as a future admiral. Now, although she hasn't been selected, her nomination does show that she possesses a great level of potential. In addition to having the ability to use haki, she also wields a Meito sword, one of the named famous swords in the world of One Piece called Kompira. Another Vice Admiral is Tokikage. He's a Vice Admiral in the Navy and is popularly known by his nickname Chaton. Since Tokikage is able to use haki, it shows that he's strong enough to be a candidate to become an admiral, although ultimately he wasn't selected because his powers are still a mystery. Our next officer goes by the name of Draw, a character introduced during the light novel that chronicles Ace's journey in the New World. Draw's weapons are two flamethrowers that are attached to the underside of his arms. They produce extremely strong flames that even Ace, the user of the animenomi, struggled against. And as a Vice Admiral, Draw is also capable of using haki. Our next character has quite an interesting role within the organization, and this is Nazu Keregari. He's a Vice Admiral and head of a division of the Marine headquarters in charge of assigning epithets or nicknames to Marines, including Admirals' aliases, and is possibly a haki user because of his position within the Marines. Recently in the story, we were introduced to Dahl, who is a Vice Admiral and commander of the Navy G-14 base. Now, as a Vice Admiral, we know that Dahl can use haki, but we don't know many other physical abilities that she possesses. Moving on from the Vice Admirals to the Rear Admirals, we'll start our list with Sicily. As a Rear Admiral in the Navy, we know that he possesses the ability to use some of the rokushiki techniques, such as Geppo, Soro, and Kamie, in addition to demonstrating the ability to use haki. Next in the Rear Admiral category is Akehende. He's a Rear Admiral in the Navy, although not much is currently known about this character, and we have not seen them fighting. But we also know, just like many other officers, that he does have the ability to use haki. Next we have Katakambo. He's a Rear Admiral in the Navy and seems to possess an above average physical strength, although we don't know the length or total of their abilities, but he was a little bit featured in the scenes where he appeared. Next we have Kadar, who is a Navy Rear Admiral from the G2 base from about 15 years ago. Now, his current location and rank is unknown, but Kadar possesses very immense physical strength, who is able to fight on par with Fisher Tiger, one of the most powerful fishermen in the world. Now, Kadar is also capable of using the 3 rokushiki style techniques, which although incomplete, makes him an extremely powerful opponent. Following Kadar, we have Hina. Now, initially, she held the rank of captain, but following the time skip, she was promoted to the rank of Rear Admiral. Hina has very great physical abilities and is quite intelligent and perceptive. Hina is also the owner of the Ori Ori no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows her to put people into a cage out of her body parts, and she can also create some restrictions on the various people she captures. Next, we have T-Bone, a former knight and is currently a captain in the Navy. Now, T-Bone is known as the Ship Cutter because of his sword fighting ability, and he wields a sword called Bamboo, which is capable of generating flying cuts with the force of sword strikes, something that only the strongest swordsmen like Roronoa Zoro or even Mihawk have been able to do. His sword strokes even seem to be powerful enough to cut through trains and ships as well as sea kings. Recently revealed to us is an individual called Prince Groose. Now, we know he's a Rear Admiral of Navy's G-14 base and is also part of the elite Sword Sailor Squadron. This implies that his skills are some of the best among the Navy soldiers, and although we don't know much about his strength and skills, we do know that this secret organization sword, although yet to be revealed, does have a very prominent role in the world of One Piece. A lesser-known person in our Navy is Daigin. He's a Commodore of the Navy and is part of the group that doesn't use the full rokushiki technique set. Now, although he is very proficient with Geppo, Soro, and even Rankyaku, he's seen with a sword, but we don't ever get a chance to see him using it. Another character much like Daigin is Yarisugi. He's a Navy Commodore from G5 Unit 6. Now, we don't have much information about this character, but we have seen him carrying a sword, wearing iron boots, but we've never seen him in combat. Continuing our list with the naval officers that hold the rank of Commodore, we come to Brand New. Now, he works at the Navy headquarters, awarding bounties to various criminals. Brand New seems to possess above average physical strength and is a very strong fighter, displaying brutal strikes in his fights, because during the Battle of Marineford, we see Brand New wielding a sword and in the mix during the battle. Our next Commodore is Kibin. He's a naval officer, but his canonical name and rank are still fully unknown. However, in the anime, he is called Kibin and holds the rank of Commodore. He's seen wielding a jite and has been shown to be a user of some of the rokushiki techniques. Kibin also possesses the ability to use haki. Moving on to the rank of Captain, we next have Very Good. Now he works at the Navy headquarters and is the bearer of the Berry no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows him to split his body into spheres, something very similar to the fruit that Buggy has. Now although this power might neutralize physical attacks, it does make him vulnerable to sword cuts. The next Navy captain we'll talk about helped in the navigation of their Bastikal against Ohara, and this captain is called Shu. He's the bearer of the Sabi no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows him to rust and oxidize metals simply by touching it. And this means he can rust any metal and then break it. And his ability also shows to be able to rust or at least decay human flesh because of the iron found inside of our blood. Our next naval officer also helped with the navigation of the Bastikal, and they were referred to as Sharinguru. This is a captain of the Navy who has the powers of the Shari no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows him to turn his arms and legs into wheels and then spin them at very high speed, making him a very formidable weapon to attack his opponents. Our next captain is called Gorilla. Now he's a captain in the Navy, and one assumes that he has some kind of investigative skills because he's responsible for looking into cases. He also carries a rifle on his back and probably possesses mastery with this weapon. Our next officer is Tashigi. Now she's a naval officer who works directly for Vice Admiral Smoker at the G5 base. She is an expert on swords, both in theory and in practice, and can identify any type of sword and even the manufacturer just by looking at the blade. Tashigi also has the ability to use haki, although it still hasn't advanced the last time we saw her. And she can also use the Rokushiki techniques, although we've only so far seen her use Soru. Our next Navy captain is one that has had quite a bit of mystery surrounding it, and that is our old friend Kobe. Now he's a Navy captain who had some notoriety built for the Rocky Port incident, and he trained together with Helmeppo under the supervision of Vice Admiral GARP during the time skip. Due to this harsh training, Kobe possesses immense physical strength and speed, and he's also learned to use Geppo, which means he can use all the other Rokushiki techniques as well. We've seen Kobe during the combat in the Battle of Marineford, and he was even able to awaken his observation haki. Now currently, we don't know where he is because he was captured by Blackbeard, but we do know that he is a part of this mysterious group within the Navy called SWORD. Moving on, we come to Nezumi, who is an officer in the Navy. Now, although we don't know much about this character, and we've only seen him carrying a flintlock pistol, we can assume that he's quite skilled in firearms, and it may even be a sniper. Next, we have Ripper. Previously, he was one of Morgan's officers at a base in the East Blue early in our story of One Piece. After Morgan's defeat, he ended up taking control of the base's operations, and Ripper has been shown to be an excellent marksman with an impressive aim. Next, we have another newer revealed member of the Navy, and this is Hibari. She's a member of the elite sword unit, and although we don't know much about this character, we do know that she may be showing up in our story later because since we've had this revelation of sword, we've got to be able to know that these individuals are going to have some powerful abilities that will come into play in this greater battle we know that it's going to develop in our final saga. Next, we have Helmeppo, Kobe's friend and somebody we knew from prior to the time skip. Now, Helmeppo is a lieutenant commander in the Navy and uses a pair of kukris for combat. After the time skip, it seemed that he acquired an even larger pair, making the reach and cut of his tools much greater. The next officer we'll talk about goes by the name of Glove. Now, he's one of the Navy commanders who also helped navigate the Buster Call on Ohara. Glove is a great fighter and has above average stamina, having come away without injuries after being thrown by Frankie for a very long distance. His physical strength is also shown to be somewhat above average, allowing him to deliver brutal blows to his enemies. After Glove, we have Zato. Now, he is seen as a lieutenant in the Navy and a subordinate of Vice Admiral Momoonka. Zato is seen carrying a rifle on his back, but being a lieutenant, he's probably quite good as a marksman and knows how to handle his rifle very well. After Zato, we have Stalker. He's a first lieutenant, and he does seem to live up to his name because he's an expert in espionage and infiltration, and he somehow was able to go unnoticed even by Boa Hancock and was able to find out information without Hancock realizing it. Next, we have Rokaku, who is Mako's first lieutenant. Now, we don't have much information about this character, since in their first appearance, they were cut down and passed out. And since then, we haven't gotten any further information about this Marine. Speaking of Mako, he is a second lieutenant and a senior member of Captain Hina's squadron. Given his position, it's possible to say that Mako knows how to fight in hand-to-hand combat and has the ability to use various weapons. Yet when we saw him, he had a flintlock pistol and a rifle. So although he can be a hand-to-hand fighter close up, he may also be a great marksman at a distance. resistance. After Mako, we have ISUKA, a first lieutenant in the Navy and a skilled swordsman who fights by piercing her opponents with a foil, earning her nickname Nailing, which means to hit straight on and jab. Then we come to Bogart. He's a sailor and the right-hand man of Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp. His current rank in the Navy is currently unknown, but Bogart is seen carrying a katana and is seen being able to use observation hockey. And one other lesser-known naval officer is Condrey. Now, not much is known about Condrey's strength or personality, except that he chose to become a Marine while his twin brother became a pirate. Moving on to another character that many in the community have wondered when we're gonna see next is Sentomaru. Now, we met Sentomaru at Sabati Archipelago just before the time skip, and he was known to be the bodyguard of Dr. Vegapunk, as well as the commander of the Navy Science Division. After the time skip, he became a naval officer, and his fighting style is very similar to that of a sumo wrestler, striking with open palms and enhanced through the use of hockey. And our final Navy officer that we'll talk about in this list is X Drake. He's a captain of the Navy's Secret Special Forces SWORD and captain of the Drake Pirates. We also saw that he went undercover to infiltrate Kaido's pirates during the Wano arc. Now, he's also one of the 12 pirates, being called one of the worst generation. Drake possesses immense strength and wields a foil and a four-bladed axe simultaneously for a two-handed fighting style. X Drake possesses the Ryo no Mi model Allosaurus, an ancient Zoan-type devil fruit that gives him the ability to transform into an Allosaurus dinosaur, enabling him to use a hybrid or even full transformation form. In either of his hybrid or full transformations, he gains more agility, greater physical strength, and much bigger durability, which allowed him to take down a pacifista quite easily. We've also seen that Drake is able to use observation as well as armament hockey. Whether he can use Conqueror's hockey has still yet to be seen. But there you have it, friends. Those are all the Marines, both notable and more obscure, that we have seen throughout our story of One Piece. As you come to the end of our video, please let us know if we've forgot anybody in the comments below, and we'll be sure to see if we can add them if we ever do an update to this video. But as we wrap all this up, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, especially those of you who stuck with us throughout our entire roster of Marines today. If you have any other ideas, be sure to comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, especially since you made it this far, give us a like as you head out to take on your rest of your day. Maybe even hit that subscribe button to join us for more stories about our wonderful world of One Piece. I hope to see you all in our next video. Let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.